friends, it's I, Alphinius Goo. Yes, here with Charles for Training with Charles for Game Mastering.
Ta-da.
Say hello, Charles.
Hello!
And today we are going to be talking about training on...
The Darkness in Genzacon.
Yes, a magnificent module. Yes, with an oculix.
Very
It's
much.
this thing. Ha-ha! Yes, that thing.
That thing.
Yes, look at that. It'll
Yes.
kill you easily. Anyway, it is an adventure for a 6th level party with pre-generated characters.
Yes and no. The adventure itself, as you're running it at a convention, is probably going to be 6th level.
Yes.
If you're
That's
running
true.
if you're running it for your group or you're running it for another group without time limitations and stuff like that, you might expand on it and it might become something more like 8th, 9th, even 10th level.
Yes,
So,
because it was crafted entirely to do 2 things. It was crafted, one, to be the first half be used in a convention,
right.
and then the second half to be carried on and taken forward. So if you could, you could take it home and run it with your friends, right? So,
Right.
which is
Absolutely.
magnificent. Tell us a little bit about this tale. It begins in Darkenhaven in the Gloom Port. Yes?
Begins in Darkenhaven. You are summoned by Peter Wezerkost.
Yes, he's here somewhere. There
Yes, he is.
And there is the maw of the Gloom Port.
Yes. And now, you are being summoned. Now, there's all sorts of hooks in there, and they talk about it in the adventure, why you're being summoned, etc. And there's a lot of background in there. Given the time limits that you might have, reading through the module and knowing the hooks and knowing what you're going to use, you don't have to have all the hooks out there at the beginning when you're doing a convention. Pick one. Use it.
Correct.
Don't have to have them all.
Yes, because really the fact of the matter is, for most convention games in a 4-hour time frame, you got to be a little railroady.
Right.
If you're not being a little railroady, right? So they get summoned to Genzacon Citadel,
Right.
which guards the Farthen Deep Passage.
Mm-hmm.
Peter Wezerkost is, of course, the commander of the Citadel.
Right.
And they end up here at the gates going in.
And the reason they're being summoned is that the personnel of the Citadel have discovered an access point to the Farthen Deep.
Yes, a circumstance. Yes.
Yes. And they tried to do a little bit of exploration, and it ended tragically. And it doesn't go very well for them. So they figured they would use, and here comes your hooks, they figured they would use another
An adventuring party. Because Wezerkost doesn't want to put his people through the dangers, so he hires mercenaries, which is no problem, right?
Right. And
then,
also they've got other stuff to do. So,
Yes.
I mean, there's a reason why they are bringing the group in.
you probably got to get them going.
Exactly.
Right? In a home game, this is much different because making Wezerkost's acquaintance and all of that kind of stuff and meeting his people and all of that stuff could lead to many other interesting tales, right?
Absolutely.
But in a 4-hour period, you got to get them through.
You got to get them going. So, give them the background, and again, read it, learn it. That way you can trim it and still get the core of the adventure through to the party. So, basically what happened is they discovered this opening in the depths of the Citadel.
Yep.
And they need somebody to adventure through it to find out if it's a threat.
That's really the truth.
The big thing
What's going on down
is
there?
this a threat to us? Is this a problem? Is it not an issue? We need your party to find it out.
Or is there something special down there, like an etheric artifact or something
Right,
like that, right? So there's a number of different, you'll see them in there, a number of different ways you can hook your players.
Get right to the Fairfell Passage, and that's where the adventure really begins.
And there's the map. Yes,
There's the map.
So this is the hole that they are going to go down.
Right.
So this becomes a very much a combat heavy
This
portion.
becomes a dungeon crawl.
It absolutely is.
It really is a dungeon crawl, and the opportunity for a lot of combat and a lot of interaction is there.
And puzzles.
And lots of puzzles. Lots of puzzles and riddles and stuff like that.
So this is the map you use as they're going down, because they can actually descend this passage, right? By sort of, they fly. They float down.
Yeah, there's some sort of a levitation action going on here. And they can think their way down. They can think their way up.
Yes.
They can think their way sideways, forward, back and forward. So,
And as they go down,
they encounter all sorts of critters. They've got levels to go through. They've got puzzles to solve. 4 puzzles. They will have limitations on how far down they can go.
correct. Yes, they're very sigils that you receive, right? And as you're going down, you need all of those sigils to open the door at the bottom.
Open the doors.
Where, of course, we will meet this horrible Oculix.
Right, and the only way you can open those doors is to solve the puzzles and the riddles and stuff like that. So, now, bug machinations.
Yes, these are the bugs.
These are the bugs.
Yes.
This is a chance for you to do a swarm combat. It's not always easy. It's not always the preferred way to do combats for some folks. Some folks really like swarm combat, but it's a chance to do it. You can lengthen it out. You can shorten it up, however you want to do it. But the bug machinations will give the party the first clue as to what they're up against.
Yes, and this one can be shortened, right? Because you really, when you think about it, you got all the role play at the beginning, them explaining what's going on and all of the stuff. Right. Then you've got 4 combats going down the hole, and then the 5th combat, which is a lot for 4 hours.
Right.
So you might want to shorten one of them, or even eliminate one of them. But I would try to get them all in. This could go quickly if you want it to go.
And when I run this, I did get them all in. But one thing to keep in mind is managing all your spells.
Yes.
Managing all of the things that you have. You might consider maybe giving some healing potions and stuff like that. Something to bolster the party, because once they start down the hole, they're committed.
Yes. And this was the idea. The idea behind it was to make it challenging. In fact, you might want to, at the beginning, say, this is not your mother's little dungeon crawl here. So be wise, resources, be smart, right? All of that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
Don't just bust it all out and think you're done, because it might get you in the end. And maybe even ask them how comfortable they are with a party wipe, because it could happen. That lays down the challenge, right? So then when they succeed, they feel good, yes?
Right.
So basically, there's a room, yes? Each one is associated with a room.
Each floor is associated with a room. Each floor is associated with a door and a sigil. And they have to put the sigil in the particular location.
Yes, so you can see the star room right there on the top right.
Right.
And then the image of the star room.
Very good.
And on the wall, there is a clue.
Yes, there is a clue. And then once they solve that, then they can then open the door, encounter further, and then move on. So now, again, this is where you can shorten things up. This is where you can move the party along and get them going.
This is one of my more favored monsters.
The Metal Manticore.
Yes, the Metal Manticore, yes, which is the second encounter.
Once they solve the puzzle of the first one, they will notice that they can then descend further down in. This brings up a good point. Combat in the levitation area is somewhat different. You can either minimize that if they're having a lot of fun with it. You can maximize that if they're having a lot of fun with it too. Yes. With people drifting up and drifting down and drifting forward and back. Have some fun with it. Go for it.
The idea was to make a weightless environment or semi-weightless environment that really requires movement is shortened. There's a number of different things. And again, you can make this as difficult or as easy as you want it to, and you can make it as interesting as you want to as well. So you got a lot of options with it.
Right. The Metal Manticore is a pretty hefty combat.
Yeah, it's a good one.
It's a good combat. And will, of course, then let you into the blue diamond room.
Yes, which also has a clue.
And all these clues will come together and allow you further access down into the hole where they will encounter the metal crows.
Yes, the crows.
The crows.
They're metallic. These are all constructs. They are technic machinations, to speak of the actual term.
Right. This one, I think, is probably, if you have to eliminate one, this is probably the one to eliminate, is the crows. But in general, if you're moving along, you should be able to get it in. Again, it's another swarm fight, but it's a lot of fun. And again,
you can cut hit points. You can make one of these or even 2 of them easier, quicker combats. You don't have to make them all, because that Oculix at the end is going to challenge the heck out of them.
Absolutely. In the GM reference book, and we'll talk about that towards the end, where they give you all the numbers and stuff like that, they always recommend what to do if you have a weaker party, or if your party is beaten up or something like that. That's in there. Feel free to use it. So Third level.
Yeah, so this is the crows. This is now the red moon, right? The crescent, a red crescent. Right. And there's another clue.
Some of these puzzles and some of these riddles and clues and stuff like that can get kind of esoteric.
Yes.
So
have to help them.
You might have to help them.
Help them. Don't be afraid to give them a little extra bonus. Give them an insight check. Have a wisdom thing go on. Right. You know, write a little note to one person on the table that gives them an extra clue. Yes.
Absolutely. Then
the big combat.
Which is not
the big combat.
As far as going down the tunnel, it's the big combat. Is the red wyvern.
Yes.
And this is a big
This'll
combat.
Beat your butt. Yes,
this will beat you up a bit. So, but again, keep in mind that they don't want to use all their spells. They want to use enough to defeat the monster, obviously. But this is where your group is going to have to conserve some of their magic, conserve some of their power for later on, because they don't know what's coming.
Yes. And I want to say something just real quick on the side about this, because here's the truth. The truth of the matter is no table is ever alike. Mm-hmm. And trying to level, balance, an adventure is very, very difficult. Mm-hmm. And it really needs to be done on a table-by-table basis.
Absolutely.
Because here's the problem. The truth of the matter, and you've seen this, Charles.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you're at a table and the players are really good. They're experienced. They know how to run their characters. They've got game. They might even have played together a lot, so they know how each other play and they play off of each other. Or it could be an entirely open new table with a bunch of newbies that don't even really know how to play the game very well.
Right. And for a bunch of newbies, if this is the one they're stepping into, this is going to be a challenge. So you might need to step in as a GM and encourage them to moderate what they're doing.
Absolutely.
Because the big whammy is coming later.
Yes, absolutely. That's why a good speech at the beginning of this is challenging. This is going to push you. This is going to potentially wipe you. And I want you to know that Alphinius gave me permission to wipe you because the challenge of doing so and overcoming, if you can overcome it, is wonderful, right? To really get through an adventure like this.
As a matter of fact, and I don't know if this was in a conversation or if it's written in here somewhere, but I think it was in a conversation we had. This adventure was somewhat modeled after Tomb of Horrors.
It was. I know because I wrote it.
Okay. It's meant to be a challenging one for the group because it's meant to be the opportunity for a wipeout. So keep that in mind.
This is the green triangle room, which is on here as well, and there is the image, and there is another riddle.
Here is where we get to the difference between a convention and what you might be playing with your home group or with another group. In the convention, once you get to the bottom of the pit, you will then encounter the Oculus.
This will be the end. You got to get through this door, and once they open this door, the Oculus is there.
Yeah, once you gather the keys from the different levels and use those keys to get through this door, you will then encounter the Oculus. And the Oculus is a big bet. For characters that have any experience at all, they're going to see the Oculus and they're going to go, "Oh, beholder, we're so dead." And they might not be wrong.
Yeah, they might not be wrong. But an Oculus is different than a beholder.
It is not quite a beholder. It only has one eye where all their spells come out. It has horns as opposed to stalks.
And this one has a problem, right? So this is how we can nerf this thing a little bit because it's got a little bit of an issue.
Right. Initially, and you'll find that by reading this, initially there were more oculi than this one.
Correct.
The other ones were then sent down into the Fairfell to do further adventuring.
Yeah, they were supposed to kill some people.
Right. This one was slightly defective. And so because it's defective, it was left here to guard the complex.
Yes.
Use that. If you need, like you said, to nerf something, if you need to absorb something, then use that defect as the reason why the party succeeds.
And this is actually why we drew it the way we drew it, right? With the slime coming out and it's just not looking right. And you could say to them, it kind of canters to the side and looks like it can't float as well as others. You can bring those ideas to the table.
Right.
And we could go on.
You are making me feel sympathetic to this Oculus. Is there a way that they could befriend the Oculus?
No way. That thing's going to eat their face.
No, it's going to kill them. It's just going to go after you, plain and simple.
Now, defective doesn't mean it isn't mean and nasty and wanting to bite your head off.
It looks kind of friendly and cute, to be honest.
Now, here is where your convention is probably
that would be where it would end.
Will end. And at that point, you can either have the party go back up and encounter Peter Ways of Coast
and tell them,
or they've mentioned in here that a group from above will come down and say, "We'll take it from here.
You've done great.
You've done great.
You look beat up.
Yeah, exactly. We'll take it from here." And if your party really needs it, you might consider doing that and doing it quick.
Well, and also, see, the thing is, when you ponder it a little bit, right? They found this hole. They didn't know it was there. Mm-hmm. They're very interested in what's going on. They tried to send a preliminary expedition down there. It had a problem. Mm-hmm. They don't really, Peter doesn't really explain too much about it, but he talks a little about it, right? But they suspect there are Thernic artifacts down there, right? They suspect all of this stuff. And now the party has basically exposed what's going on. Mm-hmm. And now Peter's like, well, maybe I shouldn't have mercenaries doing this. Maybe I need people that
because the level of technology is higher.
What could happen? Yes.
Yes. So that's where your convention will end. That is about a 4-hour, and that is a packed 4-hour adventure.
Suffice it to say that a marvelous little tale continues on with very interesting individuals, monsters, and creatures therein, including strange storage devices that perhaps help things. Yes, an old library. Yes, broken rooms, strange laboratories. Yes, and even the vats.
Yes, the vats. I forgot about the vats. Yes. So, yes, this does have an opportunity to go on. You're not going to have, plain and simple, you're not going to make it. Not going to make it in a 4-hour time period.
But if you really want to run it again with the same people, you could say, meet me at midnight, bring $20 and buy me a drink.
There you go. Yes. There you go. That would be the exact opportunity. Now, pain points, or how to run this and get through all the stuff. You're going to have to push. As a GM, you're going to have to push the party. And if you have a heavy role-playing party, you might step on a couple toes a little bit to get them moving.
Well, and this is not a big role play opportunity, really, because you're going to role play at the beginning,
right?
And then that's it. Then you're going into going into the breach,
right? You're going with swords forward. Go for it.
I honestly, sometimes in conventions, right, everybody likes to win, but if you set it ahead of time, right? Hey, listen, this is tough. This could beat you up. You could die. And it's intended to be a little bit like that. So if you win, it's going to be a real accomplishment. So go hard at this, go smart at this, play well, right? And then honestly, they have a good chance of winning. Mm-hmm. They have a good chance.
Absolutely.
And think how good they're going to feel at the end when they got 3 of their parties down. They got one with 1 hit point, 2 others that have 5 hit points, and the friggin' Oculix falls, right? I mean, that's when the people are cheering around the table.
That's right.
And all that stuff. So you have a chance to really manipulate, if you want to call it that. It's not really true, but to magnify this circumstance and make it really, really challenging, interesting, and of course, a wonderful victory for the players if they succeed.
Now, this is going to be a very hands-on game master adventure. You're going to be very much involved in this. You're not going to be sitting back and, at the beginning, with the role playing and stuff like that, you can kind of sit back, let them role play and, prompt them and stuff like that. But once they get into that pit, it's going to be...
You might find yourself standing up most of the time,
That's right?
Because you're going to be pushing them, and of course you want to bring the intensity of it and the fear of it and the creatures coming out, the machinations and all of this stuff. It's got a lot of potential.
And to bring that all around, the thing that's going to help you the most is prep time. Is read it. Again, I highly recommend doing what Gooey Cube recommends, and that is read the adventure cover to cover first. Then pick up your GM reference guide, keep your adventure guide handy, and go through the module again, looking at the numbers, keeping in mind that for a convention, they're using 6-level adventures, and that you might need to use these lighter numbers.
Nerfage. Right? A little nerfage, right? Because the truth of the matter is that we want it to be challenging, but we also have these wonderful 6-level characters that are already made. So that's where we were going to try to run it with. Now, if you're going to go all the way through and you're going to experience all of the magnificent things that happen after,
all sorts of stuff,
and the Gooey Cube.
The Gooey Cube.
Yes. All of these things that carry forward. obviously 6th level would never make it.
Right.
But for this, we think it can. Right. And it has.
One thing that I thought was very handy, and I believe this is something that goes way back to the beginning of the Red Star Rising campaign, where they're talking about short rests.
Yes.
And replenishing spells through a short rest, using your hit dice to get your hit points back. All of those basic facts can really play in here when it comes to your adventure survival.
Yes, and if you have an inexperienced group of players, make sure that you help them along with that, right? Don't forget, you all can short rest, those kinds of things, right? So, anyway, great tale.
Yes, excellent. Go forth and try not to kill them too badly.
Yeah, don't kill them too badly. This was Training with Charles. We will see you next time with the next training. May our adventures be sticky. Yes.